We did expect some members of the APC to join us, as you may have seen in the welcoming slide, but they are not able to make the program. But who knows? Hopefully before it ends, we just may be pleasantly surprised that they make it. But we do have Kazim Afegbua, who is the spokesperson of PDP Presidential Campaign Council. He joins us from Abuja. Good morning, Ms. Afegbua. Thank you for joining us today. Well,
yeah, good morning, Chamberlain. Thank you for having me.
There's already been lots of expectations about how the government is fared, what they intend to carry out, as they've highlighted in several documents preceding inauguration on the 29th the other day. But let me get your impressions first of all. Yes, there are many perspectives about whether or not there should have been a speech on inauguration day, or is it a mountain out of a molehill? Because if there's going to be June 12th and there will be a speech, will it make any difference that there was none the other day?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. Well, constitutionally, May 29, as of today, remains the day of inauguration of any government. And so the expectation will be that the president would address Nigerians and set the tone for the second leg of his presidency, even though it is still being disputed. But even at that, we are not surprised that there wasn't any speech, because this government has been one of monologue, whether you like it or not. They hardly connect with the people, they hardly interact with us, they hardly engage us. The president speaks better when he travels out of the country. That's when he speaks better. And so when back home here, there's some kind of disdain, on the part of the presidency to the citizens of the country. So I wasn't expecting any miracle, I wasn't surprised that he didn't give any speech. At any rate, this is a continuation of all the misgovernance that we have seen. It's going to be a continuation of all the incompetencies, all the incapacities and what have you. So what are they going to tell us? This government has been on stream in the last 4 years, and so we are expecting every day that they will do something different, but it's just more or less like rotation in the same axis. So I'm not surprised.
What would you be expecting if there was to be a speech, Mr. Afegbua? What would you have wanted to hear in the president's speech 2 days back?
You see, every government, every country look up to the president to make inspiring speeches that will be able to instill some level of confidence and hope in a citizenry that has become almost hopeless. And so I was expecting to hear a president set the tone, for a new paradigm shift in terms of approach to governance, in terms of delivering the deliverables, in terms of fulfilling campaign manifestos and what have you. Because if you look at the APC, they have a manifesto with programs and policies enunciated in that manifesto, but it is at best a document that has not been implemented, because a lot of the issues they raise in that manifesto, creation of jobs, reducing pump price of petroleum, building infrastructure, restructuring, and so many other issues, recovering the economy. All of these issues have not been addressed or addressed in the right sense in the last 4 years. So I was expecting to hear from the president what he intends to do differently this time that will instill some level of confidence in the people. Don't forget, Nigeria is presently in a serious situation, in the dire straits, whether you like it or not. The level of insecurity in the country is affecting foreign direct investment. The level of insecurity is also affecting, individual and collective enterprises in the way a manner people go out to do businesses to earn a living. And so to that extent, I was expecting that the president to even hit the nail on the head on the day of inauguration to say, well, I'm removing the service chiefs, well, creating new ones. These are the number of ministers I'm going to appoint, and the announcement will come in a short while. All of that. Now, 2 days after swearing in, Today is Friday. We don't know anything about ministers, and this is a government that is like a continuum. And so I was expecting to see that the president will set a tone that will instill confidence, and he killed the morale of Nigerians by not necessarily giving a speech that will ginger the country or the citizenry to action.
Well, but you know that regarding the ministers, the list the process. The Senate will have to look into it before they are then approved. So it's not too late. Is it too late? I mean, if you're talking about ministerial list at this point in time, it's not just saying, look, there's still a lot of time for him to come up with that list, isn't there?
No, you see, there is no time. Chamberlain, there's no time. You see, in the life and times of a nation, the actions of leaders, presidents, and what have you, would determine the pendulum that the political oscillation will go. You don't sit back and say because they have not constituted the Ninth Assembly, because of that you don't have to release names of ministers. No, you can release names of ministers and douse all the tension and allow people to use between now and when the assembly will be constituted to begin to interrogate those persons, those individuals, and see whether they have the capacity and the capability to actually manage the respective positions they will be given. But by the time you are saying the assembly has not been constituted, I will wait for another assembly for the assembly to be constituted before you start releasing names, before you start offering critiques and interrogation of all of the persons, you are buying time. So whether we like it or not, the president ought to set the tone for a new direction that would, give a sense of direction to the insecurity that we have in the country. How is he going to tackle the insecurity problem, the kidnappings, armed banditry, Boko Haram, and all of this? These are issues that are agitating the minds of Nigerians as we speak, and whether we like it or not, they are affecting, both directly and indirectly, the lives of the commonality of every Nigerian. So, but being sworn in and not giving any speech just left us in limbo.
But the security situation we have on our hands. He's had about 2 meetings before the inauguration with the service chiefs, and then he's met with northern governors concerning the same thing about security. So is it that speech is going to be all in all? Because all of those actions preceding this speech, they also speak volumes, don't they?
Well, you see, when you hold meetings in closed door meetings, the information is only at the disposal of those persons who are within the confines of the closed doors. But when the doors are open, what are you telling Nigerians? What are you telling us to instill some level of confidence, to instill hope? When you have almost a hopeless situation, that is what is key. The president may be engaging with the service chiefs. There are people who hold the opinion very strongly that the service chiefs should be eased out of their leadership responsibility because they have not been able to provide the adequate responses or answers to the nagging issues of insecurity that is confronting us. We can't have service chiefs that are productive, that are result-driven, and we're still having a growing industry of unemployment, a growing industry of kidnappings, armed banditry, Boko Haram insurgencies, and what have you. So irrespective of what effort they have put in place, if the effort is not yielding the adequate results for the people to see and to feel, if what we have is palpable fear in the polity, then the expectation will be the president to ease them out and reject the system, overhaul the system, and build a completely new security architecture that will be able to respond to the sophistication of arms commission and criminalities across the country. But if we continue to paper the issue and think that, he's holding meetings in closed doors and all of that, when the doors are open, what is he telling us as Nigerians? What are we taking home from those kind of meetings? Are we seeing an improved performance? Are we seeing a good response? It shouldn't be about responding all the time. It should be a matter of proacting. You know, proactiveness is very key in this business of securing the country. And internal security is also key to encourage people to pursue their legitimate aspirations on a daily basis. So for me, yes, meetings, yes, but what comes after the meetings should be what, you know, should agitate our minds.
Well, Mr. Afegbua, many will argue that some of the issues that you have raised, which are bedeviling this government, you know, were the same issues that the previous government of your party also had to contend with. What would you say to them?
You see, when I hear stories such as this, they baffle me. Baffle me in the sense that when I was a member of the APC, don't forget, a foundation member at that, and what we told Nigerians was that we're going to do something different when we come on board, and we're going to give them a leadership that has the capacity to, you know, to attend to the issues which, you know, are earlier enunciated. But 2 years into the administration, I saw clearly a you know, crass incapacity and incompetence on the part of the leadership of the party, on the part of the leadership of the government. And so to that extent, I took a walk, because when I was offering my criticism within the party, they felt that certain persons were the one urging me to criticize the party. So I decided to leave. And leaving now, I don't want anybody to bore me with the same, you know, syntax of saying, oh, these issues were there before, and so they were not attended to. For God's sake, why was this government voted into office in 2015? You know, to defeat an incumbent president, because they needed a paradigm shift from the way and manner that some of these issues were being attended to. And now, 4 years down the line, the Nigerians have realized that things have gotten worse. And so there is no begging the issue any longer. The presidency, the government of the APC has failed Nigerians, whether they like it or not. Of course, the elections of 2019 were manipulated, were rigged massively and all of that. The issues are in the tribunal. We are hoping that the tribunal would do the needful. But by and large, if you are being detained by the past, and you are thinking that, oh, because certain things were done in the past, and because of that, you are not going to do what is needful to address them, then you do not have any business being government in the first place. Because Nigerians realize that they were in this kind of situation, but it's not as worse as this. You have not even ameliorated or, you know, abated some of these issues. You have even compounded them by the way and manner that you have presided over the country the last 4 years. The kidnapping has become the fastest growing industry in Nigeria as we speak, and banditries and what have you. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, but Mr. Afegbua, we kind of propagate such views as elections rigged or manipulated, you know, on a national platform, unless the tribunals say that much, then we can report, or else, you know, the kind of reactions that will come. But that aside, are we not glossing over the responsibilities that the states also have? Because look, don't forget, people reside in those states. The job creation, all of those initiatives will be executed in states. So shouldn't we also be asking, what are the states bringing to the table?
You see, it's a good question to ask if you have a federation. What we have is not a federation. What we have is skewed federation. We have skewed federation to the extent that on paper we call it a Federal Republic of Nigeria, but in practice it's actually a unitary system of government. A unitary system of government because all the machinery and apparatus of control are domiciled in FCT Abuja, the almighty Abuja. And when they want to breathe down the throat of the state government, you know what they can do. When the state governor has no capacity to give a commissioner of police directive, a state governor cannot, you know, initiate certain policies and programs, they will tell you it runs against the overall interest of the nation. I'll give you a typical example. The Edo State government presently under the APC have been in the last 2 years pursuing a license to open up Gelegele Port. 2 years down the line, up to now, they have the federal government seeing it as a security issue. Oh, how will you open port in this? They prefer to keep the port in Lagos and in Port Harcourt. And so these are the issues. If you open up a Gelegele port, for example, in Edo State, it will also decongest Lagos. And some of the issues and the gridlock you are seeing in Lagos will also be abated. But this is the federal government that you are talking about the states. The states may have their own creativity, they may have their own initiatives, they may have their own ideas, but in putting it into practice, they have to also take directive and endorsement and, from the federal government. They will have to have permission from the federal government.
Yeah,
how do you talk about a federation when the roads are said to be federal rules, and you have
let me add this, Mr.
And meanwhile, these rules run within the states.
Okay, let me add this part. Don't forget too that the governors themselves, they've got senators, 3 each in those states. They've got members in the House of Representatives, all of them in the National Assembly, who they can let them know the challenges they face, let them know what needs to be changed with the laws. We've had amendment to the Constitution more than twice. But if they don't find it very important to address those issues which you raise about the ports, why then should we blame the center?
No, you have to blame the center because, you see, when it comes to constitutional amendments, constitutional alteration, and what have you, a whole lot of politics come into it. Don't forget that in the last 10, 15 years, thereabout, monies have been spent, by the National Assembly in coming up with a particular constitution that will put pay to some of these issues that are agitating our minds and that are altering, the permutations and calculations with respect to our federalist status. But, having said that, you discover that when you are making constitution, you have to consider a lot of interest. And given the kind of the country we are in, a lot of fears will be expressed by certain quarters and what have you here. So if you do not have the political will to push through some of these amendments, you may not get the kind of result we are talking about. But I expect a government that is run by a party that is supposedly progressive to come up and say, well, for now, we want to devolve powers. Devolution of powers is what we need. We want to devolve powers to the states. We want to remove our unitary control on the Nigerian police. We want to remove our unitary control on internal security, civil defense, and what have you, so that state government could have the opportunity and the powers to also give directives to state commissioners of police and what have you.
All right. Well, at that point, Mr. Kazeem Afegbua, spokesperson, PDP Presidential Campaign Council, thank you for your time this morning.